The DCU release of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. To quote any Southern Baptist church lady, bless its heart. That's Dixieland talk for something that's dumber than a lobotomy patient trying to do calculus. If you don't know what a lobotomy is, look it up, because the internet's there for more than just stroke off material. It's bad that when well before release, there are articles talking about how theaters are in fear that this film is going to be the anchor for the Christmas movie season. However, Aquaman has always suffered from not being the most iconic superhero. Everyone's heard of Superman and Batman, and most people have heard of The Flash and Wonder Woman. And yes, Aquaman is well known, but generally we know that Superman flies, has super strength, and laser eyes. Batman's a detective with gadgets and badass fighting skills. Wonder Woman has the lasso and bracelets. Not trying to be sexist, but Aquaman, well, I feel Aquaman's always been a bit of a hard sell. Please remember, from the perspective of old assholes from my generation, Aquaman's that dude from the Super Friends that just talks to fish. And it wasn't until the animated DC universe that I realized there was something more to him, because I don't have the most comprehensive knowledge of comic book canon. So Aquaman has never been on the list of my favorite comic book characters, and I doubt I'm the only person that feels like that. Side note, I explained Aquaman to my daughter, and she was like, so he's like Ariel from The Little Mermaid? Uh, from the mouths of babes. When the 2018 movie came out, I didn't watch it, mostly because I hadn't seen the JLA film, and honestly, I think at that point, the only other DC movie I'd seen since The Dark Knight was Wonder Woman. Because by that time, I had ran out of fucks to give, largely due to all that vomit they used to heap on the CW. Fast forward to 2023, and the trailer for the sequel comes out. When I ended up seeing it, I noticed Black Manta and wanted to check it out to see what they did with them, particularly because there are not a lot of black supervillains, especially one who's proficient at something my people have had a rather negative yet well-known stereotype regarding. And before you're like, hey moron, Black Manta was in the trailer for the first one, you are correct about that, and me being a moron, because I swear I did not remember that shit. Anyway, since I felt the need to watch and review slash roast the new flick, I thought it necessary to watch and review slash roast the original. So let's get started. So the first Aquaman jumps into the dumbass deep end immediately. As a kid, he gets bullied during a field trip to an aquarium in front of a shitload of people, and no one does anything about it. And it's then when his fish talking powers manifest for the world to see. Jump to a grown ass Aquaman taking on Black Manta's crew. Yes, that quickly. A scene of Jason Momoa being an edgy hero with super strength, and the dropped in your lap in 15 minutes antagonist setting up the plot in the most meth-addictly cobbled together fashion no rational human being should ever come up with. Until you realize they have to squeeze in all this Atlantean shit, that Black Manta is not the actual villain, and that there's even more meth-inspired bullshittery to endure. And let me tell you, the bullshittery runs rampant. It quickly turns into a fetch quest for the Aquaman trident, which isn't the worst way for the film to go considering everything, even if it is fairly predictable. The problem is this movie is really shallow, and stupid, and fucking bland, and stupid, and boring. At this point, I can imagine many of you are expecting the obvious Amber Heard joke. And all I'm going to say is there is nothing about her acting that would lead me to believe she had the ability to ruin any man's career. And that's about all I'm going to say about Aquaman 1, because that's not the point of this rant. Now, before I even saw the first film, I was pretty sure the sequel was going to be bad despite my interest. And if you've seen all the reviews that beat me to the punch because I have an actual job, you should know by now that more than one person that says this movie's terrible. Personally, after watching The Lost Kingdom, I have to compare it to Taco Bell. Admittedly, it's not the worst thing ever, but I can't count how many better options there are. It opens pretty similar to the first one, except Aquaman's a dad now, and the happenings between this movie and the last one are explained in a snarky ass narrative because Aquaman's a bad boy. And of course, the baby has fish talking powers as well. This time, Black Mana's introduced in the Arctic. I have to give it to the franchise. They're now 2 for 2 in combating African American stereotypes. So Manta's trying to find Atlantean tech to fix his suit so we can kill Aquaman when he discovers a monster deep under the ice and an evil trident that sets him up to be a pawn. Again. Yay. Next is more Atlantean versus human implied conflict that foreshadows the main plot point. That ultimately the environmental elements that ran through the first film are going to be the anchor of this one. And I can't help but being reminded of Captain Planet. I know many of you may not know what that is. Remember, the internet has more than titty pics on it. Anyway, it gets real apparent real fast that the real villain of this film is climate change. To sum it up as quickly as I can, Black Mana gets possessed via the trident by some ancient Atlantean king that gives him Atlantean strength and access to very old but advanced technology. However, it's powered by this highly toxic substance that rapidly speeds up global warming. So Aquaman has to bust his younger brother Ocean Master, the real bad guy from the first film, out of imprisonment in a deep desert cavern in order to help him stop Manta. So while the 2018 film was a fetch quest, this one's a buddy comedy. And still kind of a fetch quest. But hey, I don't think anyone was expecting something that would rival a Pulp Fiction or Gangs of New York. In an effort to give some positive feedback, I will say that the visuals are pretty good with some Verne-esque elements. But I do think the Aquaman suit's a bit much in my opinion. On the other hand, it is good to see a bad guy with human minions. It's a bit hokey, but a cool throwback. And that's the limit of the good things I have to say, because there are some glaring issues with this film, and I'm here to crap on it, not play nice with it. To start, there's a lot of nonsensical shit going on, like the Atlanteans using shark-shaped jets they don't actually need because they can basically fly through the water. Or the fact that Ocean Master's being held in a desert prison to weaken him, but it's within relatively short distance to the ocean, and all it takes is him being hit by a wave to return to full power. In the real world, there's a reason prisons are in the middle of nowhere. And people still escape from those. So why would someone that gets Superman-like strength just by taking a fucking shower be held anywhere near a body of water? And why the hell is there an octopus sidekick for a desert mission? Acting-wise, Momoa plays Aquaman like some huge meathead doing insanely stupid things, like fighting a giant robot by swinging around a container of a highly volatile compound. But then is smart enough to figure out a counter for this sonic weapon that keeps fucking him up by using whale calls. Because that's what you're here for, that fish whisperer shit. Amber Heard is in the movie surprisingly more than I expected considering all the controversy surrounding her, but that's not saying much because the film doesn't ask much of her. And not much more can be said about Black Mana's actor, because his character's whole thing is he just wants to kill Aquaman. So halfway through the film, Mana goes so insane from his possession, he's willing to heat up the atmosphere in order to screw up the ocean and kill all the Atlanteans, even if it kills all the humans on the planet as well, including him and his crew. I swear, the more I thought about this when writing the script, the stupider it sounded. Also, he plans to revive the evil Ghost King, and he needs the blood of someone from Aquaman's line to do so, because the plot says so. So he kidnaps the kid you probably forgot about at this point, because the movie also needs to check all the boxes on the been there, done that list. This culminates with a large-scale final battle similar to what you saw in the first movie, but this time it's the Atlanteans versus zombie fish people and Black Mana. During his fight with Aquaman, Manta throws his trident at Amber Heard, but it's caught by Ocean Master, and the Ghost King takes over him because of his deep down hatred for his older brother. You mean the guy that took his throne and the ultimate reason he was imprisoned? Well, no shit. At this point, I have to call foul because the antagonist of this whole damn film loses all of his powers and the fight pivots to complete some wedged in redemption arc for Ocean Master. Go fucking figure. And it's all topped off with an anticlimactic ending, not really worth detailing at this point. I originally implied I didn't think this movie was absolutely terrible, but I can honestly say I don't see a situation where I would voluntarily watch this again. This is one of those on at the bar and I just got a drink kind of movies. And besides the film's not particularly original plot, middling dialogue, and lukewarm acting, I think the biggest problem with Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is that it's about a superhero who, yeah, is super strong, but outside of that, all he really does is swim fast and talk to fish. And I'm sorry, all you devout Aquaman fans, but that's pretty limiting in where his stories can go. So that's pretty much all I have to say. By the time this film comes out, I'm guessing that anyone that wanted to spend money to see this movie in theaters has already done so. But all of you who are planning on watching this when it releases on whatever streaming service, my guess is HBO Max, let me give you some advice. Think of 10 other movies or shows you could watch, see all of those, and then if you still haven't forgotten about this film, then consider checking it out. Maybe.